Alright, Cass asks, how do you choose the title for your vlogs? That's simple. I come up with the most clickbait-like title I can possibly come up with, so I just want you guys to click on it. And then if you think it's boring, just stop watching. But I try to come up with the most enticing titles possible, even if they're completely inaccurate. Sorry about that. I'm gonna turn this way. William asks, what do you dislike most about internet videos? Because you get rewarded for the more views you have online, there's a real opportunity to sort of juke the system by putting out exploitive content that you know people are gonna click on. But I don't think that's unique to internet videos. If you look at television, there are TV shows like TMZ, which is both negative and exploitive by definition, but people watch that. I think it's human nature to always turn your head and look at a car accident, but that doesn't mean a car accident's a good thing, just because people want to look at it. Joe asks, what's your opinion on doing YouTube for money? Here's the thing, because YouTube is so accessible, I think there's this misconception that it's easier to succeed on YouTube than it is to succeed in mainstream media. That is not true. If anything, it's harder on YouTube. You're competing with a billion other creators. It's really hard to stand out. It's really hard to carve your place, and it's especially hard to make money. Say you like float to the top. Say you're doing better than everyone else. Say you're garnering something like 100,000 views a day. 100,000 views a day will make you, let me do some math, will make you about $30,000 a year, which is roughly the same as you'd make getting a job that's just above minimum wage. If you succeed on YouTube to the degree of 100,000 views a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you'll probably make about as much money as I did when I was washing dishes and doing prep cook work. So yes, you can make money on YouTube. It's not easy. It is an incredibly, incredibly difficult thing to do, that of all the creators on YouTube, there's just a couple at the top that have actually been able to make enough money to make a life for themselves. This is a nice dovetail from my previous question. What advice would you give someone thinking about starting a daily vlog? One piece of advice, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Those reasons can pretty much be anything but, I want to be famous, I want to be rich. Maybe you want to have a documentation of your life. Maybe you're compelled to share your own ideas or perspectives. Maybe you want to get better at filmmaking, and doing something every day will get you to that place. Those are all great reasons. Wanting to be like the next YouTube superstar, I think is a really bad reason. Okay, today's vlog is going to be about one thing and one thing only. Casey Neistat's Guide to Filmmaking. So for all of you out there who can't afford tuition to NYU or other expensive film schools, just watch this video over and over and over, and I promise you'll be alright. Let's begin. First, let's talk about gear. Gear doesn't matter. Let me explain. Well, before I get into that, let me just first defend myself, because right now there's a bunch of people writing comments below that are like, easy for you to say, you have all these expensive cameras. That's very true, I do, but I didn't always. My HBO show, which was one of the biggest successes in like my mainstream movie career, was shot on this camera. This isn't even high def. This is shooting on tape. This is the video camera your parents used to film you on for your like 3rd birthday. And some of my biggest videos, like Bike Lanes. Bike Lanes was shot on this little camera. This thing, what's this called? This is a Canon 300HS. You can buy these used on Amazon for like 90 bucks. If all it took to be good was to have the right equipment, the people who had the most money would always win. This is a movie called Pan. It premiered this weekend. Now, if all it took to make good stuff was to have the right equipment, trust me, whoever made that movie with their $155 million budget had way better cameras than you could ever afford.
This is Jonathan Collette again. I'm just calling to get the status on my mother, Renee LeBlanc.
When I was like 20 years old, 21 years old, I was invited to the New York Film Festival. And I saw this movie here at the New York Film Festival. Huge, huge, huge theater, sold out, standing ovation. This is a movie called Tarnation. It's pre-YouTube. It's like vlogging before vlogging was even a consideration. This movie, it won Best Documentary at the National Society of Film Critics, the Independent Spirit Awards, the Gotham Awards, LA and London film festivals. It grossed over $1 million in the box office, and it cost $218.32 to make, and it was edited using iMovie software. That's free editing software. The gear didn't matter for him, and he made like one of the most celebrated documentaries of that entire year. And that's what I want to talk about now. I want to talk about storytelling. Okay, before I get into that, here's a quick review of all of my favorite video cameras. This is shot on my 3-year-old Galaxy S3. It looks fine. If you don't have money for a camera, just use your cell phone. Cell phones are great. This is my iPhone. If you only have like $100, I highly recommend getting whatever the cheapest point and shoot is from Walmart. This thing, 6 years old, I think it was like 150 bucks when I first got it. Totally adequate. If your budget's closer to 300 bucks, I recommend the Canon S120. That's what this is. It's a really solid camera. I used to shoot everything on this. Now, a lot of people say, but if I have 300 bucks, why wouldn't I just get a GoPro? GoPros are incredible, borderline miraculous little devices. But if you want to make videos, you're better off with a point and shoot like this or one like this. These are just more dynamic. You can do more with something like this. I absolutely love GoPros, but it's really hard to watch like long videos, especially ones that aren't action videos that are shot on GoPros. If you want the very best point and shoot on the market, get the Sony RX100 Mark IV. It's a pretty amazing camera, except for the price. It's like 900 bucks. If you're gonna spend 900 bucks, you'd be much better off with one of these. This is a Canon T6S, which is like the cheapest SLR you can buy that has autofocus. Now you're looking at my main shooter. This is a Canon 70D with a wide angle lens on there. This camera's like 1,300 bucks. That lens is another 500. The microphone's another 200. All in, this is like a $2,000 setup that you're looking at to get this picture and this sound. But if you want to upgrade, this image is from my Canon 5D Mark III with an L series lens on there. So this is like a $5,000 or $6,000 camera. The difference between this and a $2,000 camera is like this. The difference between a $2,000 camera and a $600 camera is like this. This thing's okay. It's about 100 bucks. Now if you spend $200 more and you get one of these, the quality goes way up and the price only goes up a little bit. Now if you spend $300 more than that and you get one of these for 600 bucks, the quality goes way over here, but the price hasn't moved much. Now if you go from 600 to 6,000, the price goes way up and the quality only moves a little bit. As you spend more, you get less and less for your return. Story. Story is all that matters. Story is golden. Story sits at the top of that gigantic pyramid that is filmmaking. Let me do another diagram. Story is king. Everything serves the king. All of this is just here to serve the story. Defining what a story is really, really hard to do. Not sure there's actually like a generic formula to telling stories. You have to find something that an audience is interested in and then share it with them in a way that they're also interested in. The only way to learn these things and get better at these things is by doing it over and over and over. We have all these tools that enable us to create in ways that are more accessible, that are cheaper, that are more fair. That's what excites me the most. I hope that was helpful for you if you're an aspiring filmmaker, YouTube creator, however you classify yourself. Okay. Girl 22 asked me, how do you develop your own style of vlogging? I developed my own style of filmmaking because I never knew any other way to do it. I didn't have the burden of an education to overcome to create my own style. And what that literally means is it's like if you're taught to do things a certain way, say you're taught to do things the way everyone else does them, then all you know is the way everyone else does them. But if you're never taught how to do it anyway, then you know where you want to get to. You're starting over here. You don't know the way you're supposed to take. When you're making a movie, you're either being unique or you're being average. To be average is to do things the way you're supposed to do them. That looks like this. If you're never taught this, if you're never taught the average way, you still need to get to the finish line, but you don't know this way. So you're forced to define your own crazy path of getting there. You're on one side of the field, you need to get to the other. There's a path you can take, or you can be forced to discover your own path. And I was forced to discover my own path, which yielded my style. Okay, this guy asks, what's the point of most vlogs? You can't honestly say that they have artistic merit. Narcissism? Question mark. One, I think it's kind of a dipshit way to ask it. But two, there has to be a certain level of narcissism or ego involved in anyone who thinks someone else gives a shit about something they create. Whether you're a photographer, a journalist, a writer, any person who makes something, a chef, you have to first think someone else cares about something I care about. And that is inherently narcissistic. Beyond that, like, what is the artistic merit of vlogs? Like, are you f***ing kidding me? Like, just zoom way out. And what is vlogging? Vlogging is one person making a movie from their perspective every day. It is a capturing and sharing humanity in a way that this medium has never seen before. And the profundity that is that, the impact that is that, the social and cultural impacts of this new medium is entirely untold. Ultimately, I think time will tell what the social and cultural significance of this new genre called vlogging really is. I'm betting that it's huge. I feel awkward vlogging and talking to my camera in public. How do you become so relaxed about it? You've got two choices, Bjorn. Either you're gonna let what other people think about you keep you from making something, or you're just gonna say F it and not care what they think so you can make something. That's a pretty easy question. Don't worry about what other people think. What's the most important thing you would say to a beginner about filmmaking? I would say this generically to anyone who has a dream or an aspiration in life, which is don't give up. You will fail 1,000 times, but then you'll succeed. And most people like to give up after they fail because that's when it feels like that's when you're supposed to give up. Like I tried, I failed, time to quit. I totally disagree. Failure really happens when you've decided that you no longer want to pursue that dream. Like that's the moment of failure. That's the point when you turn the corner from on your way to success to failing. Step one is to remove the Ray-Ban logo off the side of these Ray-Ban Wayfarers. Ray-Ban, incredible product, like old legacy product. It's amazing. These glasses are so high quality, but their branding might be the worst ever. So Ray-Ban, the company, you make something amazing. Your product, top notch. Whatever ad agency has Ray-Ban, the campaign sucks. It sucks. It's lame. It makes me so embarrassed to own a pair of Ray-Bans that I scrape Ray-Ban off of the glasses so people won't know that they're Ray-Bans. The key to cool is that you shouldn't have to tell someone you're cool. If you have to tell someone you're cool, you're immediately not cool. Stop convincing people these are cool and just be cool. They are cool. You don't have to tell me they're cool. The whole Never Hide campaign is a disaster. You should can the entire thing. All right, let's get started.
Hi, Casey. I want to know what you think is the key to having a strong and healthy relationship and how to maintain that.
I have an answer. It's going to require me doing a little drawing. All right, the key to a long relationship. This is you, and this is your partner. And that could mean wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, however you identify. This green dot here is the relationship. Now, the key to a long marriage is to maintain your sense of you, and for your partner to maintain their sense of being. And then together, you share a relationship. You stay you, he or she stays who they are, and together you share this. The problem with most relationships is that somebody in the relationship, or both people, think the only way to succeed is like this, is to give up you, and instead have this thing together where you give up your sense of identity and you just have this. It's like, that's it. There's no more you, there's no more me, there's just the relationship, and that will never work. This alone is the key. I hope that makes some sense, because that's something I really believe in, something I really subscribe to. It's why I encourage Candace to keep doing her own thing with her business. It's why I keep running and make my videos and do everything that makes me me. She does everything that makes her her, and then together we have this thing called our relationship. I gotta get back to work. What would be a good first job for someone who wants to be an entrepreneur later on? Tori, get as close to the fire as humanly possible. If there's someone you admire, if there is a company that you like, get a job pushing a mop, sweeping a broom, whatever it takes. The closer to the action you can be, the more you're gonna learn. Don't worry about money or position. It's where you are that matters most when you're first starting out in your career. You've worked on some awesome projects with awesome clients. Beyond making great work, what do you do to find these opportunities? Typically, opportunities are created, not found. I've always created opportunities by taking really big risks. I made a whole bunch of movies that I paid for myself that were really hard to do, and I had no idea what the outcome might be, but it's because I did the work first that these opportunities were created. Michael asks, what was life like in your mid to late 20s? A really smart person told me, you spend your 20s figuring it out and your 30s doing it. And that's exactly how I would describe my mid to late 20s. I was trying a bunch of things, I was succeeding in some places, I was failing in others, and that's true for my work, and that's true for my love life, that was true for every facet of my life. And towards the end of my 20s, I really started to feel like I got a grip on things. Yeah, ever since I turned 30, I feel like the trajectory has been vivid, and it's just full steam ahead. I'm seeing a lot of questions about why. Why should I go to college? So I'm gonna end it with this. Here's a general good guiding principles around higher education. If you know what you want to do in life and it doesn't require a college education, go do that and skip college. If you know what you want to do in life and it requires a college education, go to college. If you don't know what you want to do in life at all, college can be a fantastic place to figure that out. And I mean that from a social perspective, an academic perspective, an experiential perspective. College can be wonderful for that, but it is not the only path for that. Again, I say that as theory. I didn't go to college, but that's what I tell my kid Owen, and that's what I share with you guys. Today on the vlog, something a little bit different. Today on the vlog, we're gonna do story time. I do Q&A once a week. I try to read the comments. I try to pay attention to Twitter. And through all that, I see trends. Trends is in people asking the same questions or asking about the same thing kind of a lot. So I just thought, why not do a whole vlog about one subject that I'm particularly passionate about. And that one subject is New York City. See, New York City has always been so much more to me than a place where I live. This city has been my muse, my inspiration. This city has been... I should really preface this entire story time story by saying, if you're someone who identifies with a spirit of adventure or aspiration, figure out how to live in New York City at least once in your life. All right, back to the story. I'm gonna go all the way back here to 1988, when this movie, the movie Big, starring Tom Hanks, came out.
Like, get some air between you and the tramp. Pulling. Jesus! Anybody can do this.
The movie is about Tom Hanks, who magically becomes big. He moves to New York City and he has the brain of like a 12-year-old because he's a kid on the inside. He succeeds wildly beyond his expectations, including getting like this ridiculous loft in the neighborhood that I live in right now, and putting a trampoline and like skateboard and a basketball hoop inside his apartment. It really captured my imagination because I was his age before he got big in that movie, and I was obsessed with New York City. So this idea that I could move to the city and be a kid and thrive here was like the most fantastical fantasy I could ever have. When you're a kid, when I was a kid, You're constantly like dreaming, you're fantasizing, you're making yourself all these promises, all these things you want to do when you grow up. You can't do much as a kid, you're just a kid. I always dealt with this overwhelming feeling of helplessness because I wanted to do things, but I couldn't because I was a kid. And that Tom Hanks movie for me really embodied the realization of all of those promises. Here he was, like, this guy moved to New York City and he like had the big apartment and the hot girlfriend trampoline in his loft, and he got like by being a kid, by doing the things you want to do as a kid. My life's mission is and has always been to realize all of the promises I made to myself as a kid. And look, when I was a kid, I was always in trouble. I was always being told I was wrong. I was always being told I was stupid. I was always being told, don't do that. So I accrued a lot of promises. I was in this permanent state of fantasizing like, well, when I grow up, I'm gonna. And New York City was so wrapped up, it was so enveloped in all of those fantasies. When I went from being a kid who was 12 to being a teenager who was 16, I went from being like this maniac dreamer of a kid to being this like bona fide loser of a teenager who worked in a restaurant and had a pregnant girlfriend and had dropped out of high school. So the idea of moving to New York City seemed really far away then. That's me, that's the trailer I lived in, that was baby Owen. This was me in the newspaper when I was skateboarding behind Owen's stroller. Living in that trailer park, living in southeastern Connecticut, I didn't fit in. I felt like a jerk every day of my life. And I did have this like nonsensical plan to move to New York City, to realize that I would always keep it just far enough off to where it couldn't be a reality, it couldn't be tangible. I think like my plan was actually, in 5 years I want to be living in New York City. And then when my baby mama dumped me, I was like, fuck it, I'm doing it right now. This is the answer to that question that I get a lot, which is, how do I move to New York City, or what's it like to move to New York City? This is New York City. This is a wall. This is you, me, and everyone else who's ever wanted to live in New York City. Now, to get from here to here, you have to go over this wall. And to get over this wall, to do this journey, takes everything you've got. Everything you've ever done in life, everything you've ever earned in life, all the resources you have been used up getting over this wall just to get into the city. And then you're here, you're left in the city and you have nothing. You start at the very, very bottom. And you slowly start this climb again. This time the ascent is in New York City, the hardest place to possibly survive. To be able to live here, to be able to move here, make no mistake, it is war. That's why people say things like, this city will eat you alive. This city will literally eat you alive. My first apartment was a closet so small that I had a futon that couldn't fold out. I had to sleep on the futon in the couch shape because it wouldn't fold out, it was so small. My second apartment was blown up on September 11th. My third apartment was a hardwood floor in my brother's apartment. My fourth apartment had a shared bathroom down the hall that I shared with a bunch of illegal immigrants and people who had just gotten out of prison. That was the first 2 years of my life in this city. But that was the price of entry. That's what it costs to be here. And what did being here mean? It was, it is, it forever will be for me the promised land. Like, for the first time in my life, I was at a place where I fit in. The first time in my life, I wasn't surrounded by people who were telling me I was doing things wrong. I could do whatever I wanted to do, whenever I wanted to do it, and I was surrounded by really smart people that encouraged me to do that. That's what New York City was for me. It's as if you went around the world and found all the people that didn't fit in everywhere else and plopped them all on an island. And that island is called Manhattan. And now, at age 34, I mean, it took me like a decade and a half to figure it out, but now I am Tom Hanks in the movie Big. This funhouse, this is my office. Like, I do this, the list that is this, gets a little bit shorter every single day. And it was enabled first and foremost by living in this city. That's it for today's vlog. I hope you enjoyed story time. It is currently 9 p.m., 9 o'clock at night. Tomorrow morning I also have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. But I didn't shoot a vlog today, I didn't shoot a video, which is fine, taking days off is fine, but I shot this morning, which meant I started something So if I didn't do a vlog today, it would have meant starting something and not finishing something. And in my book, that's not okay. Someone who starts something and doesn't finish something, that is a loser. Someone who starts something and always finishes it, that is a closer. One of my favorite movies is called Glengarry Glen Ross. Here's a quick scene.
A, B, C. A, always, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Yeah, I tattooed that on my arm. Last week I talked about that Voltaire quote, perfection is the enemy of good. And what that means is you can never let your desire for perfection prevent you from finishing something that's good. Because to finish something, even imperfectly, is to learn from it, and then you can move on and get closer to perfection. These fundamentals dovetail nicely with my passion for YouTube. Prior to really embracing YouTube, I always considered like my filmmaking, the content I made, to be precious, and perfection was imperative. And how that actually manifested, what that actually meant, was I just didn't make a lot of stuff because I always had that excuse to fall back on. And in embracing YouTube, and more specifically, giving myself this daily mandate to upload a video, it has forced me to abandon this idea of perfection, this false idea of perfection, and instead forced me to focus on productivity. And that, in aggregate, over time, has made me a much better filmmaker, has made me a much better storyteller, creator, all of that. I need to explain something called the Pareto principle. %80 of the movie, that is the filming, like all the stuff with the camera, me out running around, like the idea, the concept, all that stuff. The first 80% of the movie is only 20% of the work. And the last 20% of the movie, which is for me the editing, the last 20% of the movie is 80% of the work. All the things that people typically associate with making a movie is really only the small part of the pie. And the big part of the pie, the Pac-Man part, this is finishing. This is closing. And this rule, by the way, this applies to everything in life. This applies to school, whether you're a painter or a musician, trying to write a song, trying to start a company. Entrepreneurship, this applies to. My business, this applies to. When you run a marathon, 26 miles, the first 22 is only 20% of the work. It's those last 4 miles that are 80% of the work.
You close or you hit the bricks. You can't close shit. You are shit. Hit the bricks, pal, and beat it, because you are going out.
I have to go home now because there would be a terrible irony in me not finishing a movie about what it means to be a closer. There's this thing I try to do as often as possible. It sounds silly, but it works. Every once in a while, when things feel really good, you just stop and look around and pay really close attention and then say, I'm gonna remember this moment. I try to do that every so often, and then life kind of becomes an aggregate of those moments. And when you look back, it's those moments that you remember. But if you forget to do that, you end up looking back, and instead of seeing those little moments, you just look back and you're like, what just happened? It's just remembering to stop and think. Sometimes you're so busy, life is so fast, you forget to think. You've got to stop and think. You think about what makes you happy. You think about what makes you sad. What makes you fulfilled? What's a waste of time? What's a good use of your time? You gotta think. And that's my favorite part about running. I love the physicality, I love the competitiveness of it, but my favorite part is having a piece of the day, every day, set aside, no distractions, just think time, just brain time. Running is much more of a cerebral experience for me than it is a physical one. I never did well in school. I also never did well when I had a job working for someone else. I don't do well in environments where I don't agree with the structure or the curriculum. But the minute I was in a place where I was left to my own devices, where I had agency over what I did, I thrived. Technical question, do you watch the leftover footage after you edit your vlogs? Do you delete it or do you store it? I watch all the footage that I shoot and then I don't delete anything. I save every clip I've ever shot for every single vlog. Sergio asks, have you ever tried Minecraft? No, I've never played Minecraft, but I will say one of my fantasies is to have enough time in my life, which I don't have right now, have enough time so I could start a gaming channel on YouTube because I think they're fascinating.